Exclusive contracted novel by Feilu Novel Network. The fantastic journey of Tunnel Mouse. The man in the tunnel lives in a steel cave in an artificial mountain made of steel and concrete. Every day, he is busy repairing machines that keep his habitat livable, repairing his prosthetics, and helping his twisted body navigate through the small tunnels and ventilation shafts of this world. He, like the equipment he maintains, is an abandoned machine. If given the opportunity to become another person, would he choose to become a hero and live in the bright sunshine? Light lures in the distance, yet countless secrets are buried deep underground. The races that delve deeper and choose to stay underground leave behind ancient and mysterious mysteries for this land. Perhaps only then can we uncover the veil of these mysteries. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 1. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I don't think the replacement belt for the number 3 air processor in Zone E will last long, but for the recently abandoned machine, a replacement can be removed and located on the 16th floor of Zone H. If necessary, he will go and retrieve it, but now he plans to splice a part onto the broken belt, wrap it with tape for repair, and expect the best result. Do you like tape? It is very useful for repairing things, and there is a warehouse on the EP1-10 side full of tape. When he first found this warehouse, he moved thousands of rolls to one of his storage areas. As the use became more frequent, he turned away other robbers by welding the warehouse door. After the repair was completed, he collected his precious tools and walked around the corner before turning on the air conditioner. Not all machines enjoy working again, sometimes expressing dissatisfaction by shaking themselves or exploding. I dare not take this lightly. He picked up a metal rod with his tail and used this 6-jong long robotic arm to poke buttons and switches until the machine started trembling. The belt made a noticeable buzzing sound, but overall, both he and the machine were satisfied with the results. He can adjust the workload of the other 2 air processors in this section to complete the work. They have been working harder during the shutdown of this air processor, which is the exact way they will also shut down. When things are working properly, no one will consider air. But when it doesn't circulate in corridors and residential areas, people will feel worried. Firstly, it smells very outdated and people will feel worried. Complaints will be submitted to the maintenance department. Due to almost no one caring about repairing things in their habitat, they are often overlooked. The government pays quarterly fees to companies responsible for maintaining mechanical and electrical systems. Neglecting complaints and delaying repairs is more profitable. But once people die in their sleep, residents move to the streets or other areas congested in their habitats, suddenly it becomes an emergency situation, and maintenance personnel will appear. Will clumsy technicians enter a world where they tear through air ducts to find problems and fix one thing and destroy 2? He hates them. He must carefully conceal his work, close any projects, and retreat to his safe room until they leave. If you repair things, it will be better for everyone. Residents have fresh air to breathe, technicians can avoid work, while Malo can stay alone in his world, where there are dilapidated machinery, unused corridors, and metal tunnels. Is this completely suitable? He rarely needs to be with people and doesn't like it. After completing the work of the air processor, Malo jumped onto his wheeled skateboard and rolled along a medium-sized tunnel. These tunnels are approximately 36 inches square. For me, it's easy to push along the wall and roll on frictionless wheels attached to a 2-jong square plastic, quiet and silent. He found these wheels in a factory in the underground G area, which are used to support the diagnostic device of the suspended car. When I went there to borrow a wrench and a micrometer, I saw them. It only took an hour to lift the machine with a winch, remove the wheels, and then put the things back. They are good wheels, and the diagnostic machine can only stay in place. He almost reached the slope. He grabbed the skateboard with both hands and coiled his tail around the bottom of his spine. His tail is a 6-meter long portion of a 12-inch waistband connected to his waist by a 2-foot square plastic Waldo. Nature didn't give him the best limbs, but he is slowly creating new ones. He collided with a steep slope and rushed towards the open space. The habitat has 25 large slopes, each located at the center of each region. Each one is a vertical passage that spans nearly 20 feet on one side, used to move large machinery to higher floors. When Maluo began to descend, his tail untied and extended towards a metal hook hanging on the winch cable. The cable and tail together turned into a large pendulum, swinging it over the lower half of the descent, and he rushed down into another medium-sized tunnel with his head facing down. He took a turn and entered a small tunnel at a 90-degree angle to the medium corridor. After a few bends, he hit a small slope. He grabbed the winch line and hooked the link of the chain with his prosthetic toe claws. His tail hit the winch controller, and he climbed 12.5 floors up to the pipeline project. These habitats are mountain-like buildings designed to accommodate over 500,000 people. They were built in the last century to provide housing and work for the lower class. They are slowly rotting from the inside now. Every city has them, and none of them are in good condition. In theory, they provide housing, food distribution, and work for people who may otherwise be homeless. In fact, there have never been enough jobs, only companies that require cheap space and cheap labor will set up factories here. Maintaining livable habitats and finding funds to repair them has always been a constant struggle between people who control the law and money. Well, I don't care. The system has collapsed, and the whole society seems not too worried about the people living in it. As a part of society, people are quite indifferent to the operation of things. He has not been listed in any database, and no one knows that he is still alive. He repairs things so that people can overlook a part of this habitat and completely avoid it. If anyone has ever thought about why E-Zone seems to have fewer problems and doesn't need to dispatch more maintenance teams, they haven't thought too much about it. The pipeline system is an independent hierarchy located between floors 45 and 46, with a height of only half. Liquid pipelines, food transportation, waste pipelines, as well as cables and data cables, cross this layer and alternate up and down as needed. The pump moves the material to a higher position, and the baffle prevents things coming down from above from moving too fast, or redirects waste to larger pipelines. I like this level and have established a home here. He can easily obtain everything he needs. His home is located in a huge unused storage tank. He found it while drawing the system map. It should be connected to the water system as additional storage. But its location has proven to be a problem, and those who do this find it easier to ignore it. I dug an access hatch from the small opening to the side of the storage tank. The small passage is only 24 inches on one side, and the chance of someone climbing in and finding his door is almost zero. Is it inside another part of the world? The size of the storage tank is 30 zhang by 40 zhang, with a height of 10 zhang. This 90,000-gallon storage tank provides enough space for me to set up his studio and computer. His home is a source of pride for many crazy scientists. 24 screens scattered on the wall, connected by cables to multiple computers with different functions. From here, he monitors all the mechanical equipment in Zone E and has access to the remaining safety systems. If there is any movement in the passage or hallway, he will know. If the machine breaks down or runs too hot, he knows it. This is the core of Zone E, completely hidden in the eyes of 30,000 people living and working here. And Ma Luo is a mechanic who keeps things running. Ma Luo's height is less than 4 zhang. His left leg is missing from above the knee and has been like this since birth. As he found the schematic on the data network and had time to make the parts, he made improvements to it. The current model is installed on his thigh and controlled through a cable that shares the lower port with the tail. There are 2 interfaces on the back of his neck, the other one is 1 foot below his spine. It's not his job, they were installed in his first month of existence. He is troubled by the idea that others do not have these interfaces and wants to know how they respond. Apart from the mechanical legs, mechanical tail, and cables from the device to the data interface, Maluo looks like a skinny 12-year-old boy with brown hair and eyes. Perhaps he will always look like this. He stopped growing at the age of 12 and is now around 24 years old. The alarm sounded. Rotate from the workbench and push the chair with a wheelchair to the front of the table. His fingers touched the keyboard, and his tail was inserted into a data socket. In an instant, he was connected to cameras and sensors in Zone E and other parts of his habitat. He looked at the reason for triggering the alarm. There is a large factory area he is monitoring in Zone D. This is one of the better factories in the habitat, with good water supply, sewage discharge, and stable power supply. For unknown reasons, it has not been used. In this area, 24 people are carrying flat noodles of machinery and medical supplies. Malo closed everything he was doing and focused all his attention on observing and collecting data. Is this the place a few years ago where I used to live as a child laborer, infiltrating computer systems and transferring funds? This area has been empty and abandoned for several years, but now someone is using it. And the face he saw looked very familiar. Chapter 2. Stealing Things. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The memories of his early years are very chaotic, and most of the time he spent in the large factory room he is currently monitoring. His playmates are 20.4 other children, all of whom have sockets installed like him. Many people have obvious congenital defects. His parents are a group of technicians and doctors who do not view these children as humans. In their view, children are just a part of the machine. He and the other children in his group grew up together from birth. They are called the fourth group, but he knows nothing about the other groups. The other 20.4 children are his brothers and sisters. No matter where they come from, they are all one family. They have different theories. Bach insists that they were cultivated in an artificial uterus, which allows for easy installation of sockets along the spine and other genetic modifications. Gilbert doesn't like that theory. He believes that they are all purchased from parents who never want or have no money to raise disabled children. All these children have at least one physical disability. Ultimately, this is not important. Their origin is the illegal act of genetic modification, which is hidden and banned in all countries. They only have each other, although it's strange, they are a family. Life is repetitive. They take a certain dose of medication every day to focus on their tasks without caring about other things, as well as vitamins and nutritional supplements. Then it is loaded into the cabin, inserted into the computer, let them roam on the internet, attack companies and research institutions, steal information and transfer funds to hidden bank accounts. They only have 2 hours a day to be unlocked from the computer and cabin, and at that time they need to exercise to maintain muscle tension. They are connected to the computer by their school. Their courses include security systems, remote operation of robotic arms for manufacturing, moving funds in accounts, and most importantly, leaving no trace when walking on the internet. This becomes easier as wildfire viruses destroy most of the content of the internet. It disrupts security systems, pushes data to the public domain, and erases knowledge. Malo and others are like scavengers foraging on the remnants of predators. Even after the AI system thoroughly cleaned up the internet of wildfire virus, the internet did not recover. The technology for breaking through systems is now more advanced than protection. At the age of 8, Mello and his brothers and sisters stole millions of dollars of enterprise databases every day. But their guards began to become lazy. The technical personnel who initially created them and supervised their lives have left. They lived a privileged life by stealing funds and entrusted their work to subordinates who supervised the dirty warehouse, where there were 24 children who almost never left their cabin and never spoke. Or more precisely, never speak loudly. They constantly communicate with each other, play games, and share everything they know through machines. Outside the cabin, they communicate through sign language and code typed on the floor. I have gained a lot of understanding about the cabin that he had spent a lot of time on. He and his brothers and sisters were connected to the medical cabin of Subject 3. These machines were very similar to the cabin he saw being unpacked and tested. The mixture of Subject 3 and 4 compartments was moved into the empty factory. But his gaze was drawn to a larger and more complex cabin. Quickly searching on the data network gave him the specifications for the new Subject 5 medical/gaming cabin. He wants to know why there is only one. These cabins are 10-jean-long cylinders that can accommodate just one person inside. The patient is placed inside, and the chamber is inserted into a pipeline to provide medication or nutrition to the patient and take away waste. Initially, they were used for long-term care in hospitals. Then, wealthy and elderly people began using them to extend their lifespan. Ultimately, as costs decrease, anyone who works online for long periods of time or even for several consecutive days will use them. Workaholics and online gamers have purchased millions of them. When I was 9 years old, most nights there were only 2 guards in the warehouse. The children lay in the cabin to complete the task. But they became bored. As they grew older, they modified the programs used to break through security systems and created increasingly better tools. Their speed in completing tasks is increasing the faster, than explore on the internet. This enabled them to obtain the structural diagram of the cabin, and they learned how to bypass locks and track their programs. All records show that they rest for 22 hours every day, and no one suspects that some of them are escaping from prison. They began to explore the surrounding air ducts and maintenance systems. They easily bypassed any security measures that the supervisor knew they were doing. Malo has already discovered the security system of the rest of the building where their home is located. He and some others are considering trying to escape the factory, but they don't know where to go. However, just thinking about these things is very interesting. Malo, along with 2 children accompanying him, Nemez and Aldo, began to quietly leave their cabin. The guards are always watching videos and don't even pay attention to them. They found a ventilation outlet leading to the ventilation and maintenance system, began exploring the area around them, and found pathways to various parts of their habitat. Although they all have physiological problems, it's very difficult. Nemez only has one hand, and Aldo's eyes are not good. Nevertheless, they succeeded. They completed the work in a small amount of time, but concealed this fact. If security cameras are checked, they show that the children are unconscious in their cabin. Planned an escape. Malo is still thinking about what would happen if they could escape, but they have never had a chance. Something happened. There have been some changes. The criminal was afraid of being discovered, so he moved the operation. One night, 12 people rushed into the old factory, surprising the 2 guards on duty. The cabin is locked and drugs are injected into the people inside. The cabins are unloaded from other machines, moved out of the doors one by one, and delivered to the waiting transportation vehicles. Within half an hour, there were 20.4 children in the cabin and 1 empty cabin. Only hide deep in the ventilation duct. Well, I was exploring that night. When his cabin was taken away, he was not inside. When he returned, there were only half-destroyed machines left in the room, and nothing else. The hard drive was torn off from the computer. No files left. The people who took away the children did not leave any clues that could lead them to be blamed. Later, others came to search for clues and clean up the scene. I don't know who they are hidden deep in pipeline engineering. 20 years later, he is still searching for the whereabouts of his family. But now, a familiar person has returned. Facial recognition software gave him a name. And Ming. Are you there? When I was a child, he was a technician on the day shift. Now he is old, exhausted, and his hair is graying. It is necessary to study this person and understand why he is here. The flashing subject 5 on his monitor has been attracting your attention. It will solve many of his problems. He made a plan and observed. I was curious if I would see children from another 25 cabins being moved into the room and committing cybercrime. When this situation did not occur, he felt relieved but also saddened. It would be great to meet other people like him. He feels nervous in front of normal people. They are all taller than him, and he prefers to enter the bustling areas of his habitat. 2 weeks later, do you know why Ming and the others are here? Ming has a plan involving a new virtual reality gaming world. Subject 5 will grant him access. Dozens of users from Subject 5 will enter the game, but bypass certain security measures. Subject 5 has been set up and connected to the data network. All subjects in Class 3 are in a separate room inside, connected to Subject 5. I don't really care why I did it. Although it may be interesting, it doesn't matter to him. He only wants to get 2 things from Ming. Information about his family and Subject 5. Once all their information systems are connected to the data network, it is easy to invade their machines and obtain all the information. They are using his communication system that runs through the habitat for maintenance and control. He did almost nothing. However, these pieces of information are disappointing. This is just a scam about the game, it has nothing to do with his family. But he could get a clue. Ming worked for Tricop Biotechnology throughout his life, which was owned by BioSolutions, a virtual company owned by Shemovich. This gave him a place to start searching. After observing everything he could learn from it, he decided to visit the old warehouse and see if he could buy a cabin. Everyone in the factory knows what's wrong. The first sign is that 2 men are kneeling on the ground and the room begins to spin. The toxic gas introduced into the ventilation system works quickly. They were unconscious for several hours. Video surveillance will not display anything other than 2 people sitting at a table watching pornographic films. Let's start working. Did you clean up this area a long time ago? In the first 2 years, he lived in the ventilation duct near the room, slowly exploring the entire habitat. He taps on the water pipe to obtain a water source and uses a food delivery system to obtain food. When he started his first studio and needed materials, he began to loot the remaining things in his home. He has an idea, maybe he can find clues to other people somewhere in the abandoned machines and broken computers. He couldn't find it, but what he did was create a system that could lift the machine from the room and deliver it onto a large horizontal axis 100 yards long. Remove the 2 suspended ceilings and slowly lower them into the room using a winch. He carefully unloaded Subject 5 and 2 Subject 3 compartments. Each compartment is wrapped in a cargo net, and the winch slowly pulls them one by one to the horizontal passage. The last unloading was a consignment of nutrition bags and medical supplies used in the cabin to maintain the user's life. Raising the cabin to the horizontal channel is the first step. It's necessary to destroy his trace. The suspended ceiling on the ceiling has been returned to its original position. The winch has been retracted. He will come back as soon as possible and completely remove it to minimize the number of clues. The metal plate he removed from one side of the horizontal channel was replaced. Then there is the long and slow process of moving the cabin and supplies slowly to the top. Each large drop has a winch and pulley assembly, which is exactly what is needed now. To move heavy cargo to the top of the habitat. Even if someone figure out how he stole these cabins, it will be difficult to find out which floor they went to. After covering up the tracks for an hour, Malo stood on Module 5, which was ascending to the 48th floor where he would store it. Underneath him was a multi-story building, but he trusted his own system. An electric pallet truck moves each cargo deeper into the habitat so that it can take them to the pipeline engineering site. The whole night was going on, but in the end, all 3 compartments and supplies were hidden at the pipeline engineering site. Tomorrow he will start moving Subject 5 to his home. Subject 3 is just additional waste. He's not sure how to deal with them, but having more parts is always good. Go home and continue editing the safety video. He spent several hours tampering with a scene where 2 guards fainted on the ground, then the door opened and a masked thief entered the room. In this video, the cabin is loaded onto a forklift and then transported out of the room. Other security cameras will display that the thief moved the cabin to a warehouse with an outdoor loading and unloading dock. No one has used that room for many years, leaving a convenient and chaotic dead end. I breathed a little sigh of relief after completing his robbery. He checked all the systems he monitored and compiled a list of repairs to be done the next day. His stomach is growling, this is a day of hard work. He issued a command to the food processor, and after a moment, a large container of food appeared in the pneumatic tube. He opened the container and saw a pale yellow food cube with a bland taste, which everyone in the habitat ate. You can order better food, but that requires money. And no one has money. It is said that their taste is like chicken. Can't judge, he has never tasted real chicken. Food cubes are just something to chew and swallow to maintain life. The basic problem has been solved, and he has set an alarm clock. 2 hours of sleep is enough to restore his energy, and then he will set up Subject 5 and conduct a trial run. Chapter 3. To Kill Panner Chess. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Did it take me a week to set up Subject 5 for medical class? This project is much more difficult than he initially imagined. Firstly, it has made modifications to Kaminsky's project. I don't know what they did, so the first task is to ensure that there is nothing inside the cabin that could harm him. Although the possibility of setting traps is very small, he will never take this risk. Each circuit must be inspected and tested. He found some parts of the medical diagnostic system missing and fixed these issues with parts from stolen Subject 5. The acquisition of files and software is simple. It seems that most large companies are sponsoring this new game and setting up facilities for supply cabins to users. When he was 8 years old, breaking into ACME or Alex Company was something he had done. This is simply a child's game. He conducted 3 checks on the medical diagnostic system and was ultimately satisfied with it. For an ordinary technician, things that may take a month can be completed within a week. His ability to obtain information from data networks is 20 times faster than that of ordinary people. He has a perfect photographic memory, and he only sleeps for 2 hours every day. Someone has done a good job in designing Molo and his brothers and sisters. But it's not a perfect job. Improving reaction speed, memory, and multitasking ability comes at the cost of having a short stature and abnormal metabolism. His body needs some vitamins and minerals that cannot be found in processed foods in his habitat. He must be careful of infection, especially around the implant. Crawling several kilometers of dirty air ducts every day means that any small scratches can become a problem. And he didn't get the right protein to support the muscle growth he needed. Subject 5 can solve all these problems. He added his own designed modifications. He installed manual control for the cabin door and added an additional socket, allowing him to access the graphical user interface of the cabin with a tail or a cable. He also welded a hook outside the cabin door and connected it to a power cable that can be opened in emergency situations. In the absence of anyone else to rely on in any part of his life, he minimized the risk as much as possible. Being locked in a problematic cabin is not something he wants to experience. After checking everything 3 times again, he nervously entered the cabin and lay down. At least, this is comfortable. The cushion will inflate to support his body. For long-term care, they will move slightly to reduce stress and prevent pressure sores. If this is successful, consider sleeping only in the cabin at night. Technicians usually insert intravenous infusion tubes. No need for them. There are several areas on his arms, legs, and torso where he can receive intravenous medication. They are installed simultaneously with the socket. This is very convenient now. He easily connected the nutrition and medication intravenous infusion tubes and opened the graphical user interface of the cabin. There was a slight vibration, and then a screen appeared on the inside of the hatch. Subject 7. Initialization of 8945621A. Welcome back, Mr. Kaminsky. Do you want to play a game? No, I don't want to play games. He entered the registration file, erased all input data, and replaced them with only his name. Is scanning allowed? But 2 hours. There was nothing to focus on, and he felt bored after 10 minutes. 2 hours is like a lifetime for him. This will be a form of torture. Subject 7. Reinitialization of 8945621A. Hello, okay. You have not yet used this cabin, Subject 7. 8945621A. To ensure that this medical cabin can meet your needs, we will have to conduct a complete scan of your body to determine your medical condition. As this cabin is not connected to the data network, we will not display any of your current medical records. Start scanning. You will have to stay in the cabin for the entire scanning time. Lying there for 2 hours is really too long. Games. You just mentioned games. I want to play a game. I haven't played electronic games before. It's more interesting to create games with brothers and sisters. But after spending many years alone, he tried other things. In the habitat, old game consoles are very popular, and trading outdated games is a huge business. Malo collected some damaged parts from the recycling bin, exchanged and repaired old games for adventure, and added his computer network. His home has over 10 different game systems and hundreds of video game cartridges, CDs, and USB drives. Of course, write games loaded on this device. Tachibana Game Chess Global Thermonuclear War. Just a joke. We only play with Joshua. The World of Origin engines. This is disappointing. There are no Pac-Man, no Soft Man, and even no zombie shooter. He tried other games. In less than a minute, I feel bored with the jigsaw puzzle game. Chess is played within half an hour. The artificial intelligence running chess games is too easy to predict. He was disappointed that he was unable to attempt a global thermonuclear war. The last option remains. He clicked on the last option and immediately felt like he had disappeared. Woke up again in an instant. He felt like he was lying in the cabin, standing in a room without any features, with a large screen in front of him. Welcome to the world of Origin engines. Enter a world full of stories and legends. Reshape yourself and become a hero, explorer, or any character you want to be. Interact with other players and residents of this world. Explore the world or underground by following a story set to be easy to follow, like breadcrumbs, or leaving the most common path. What secrets will you reveal? Warning. The game's hyper-realistic virtual reality may cause a slight sense of loss at the beginning. When you are in the game, your body comfortably lies in your Subject 7 cabin, and your thoughts and senses are receiving and replicating information you have experienced in the real world. We just added orcs and magic. Malo looked down at his body. Everything was wrong. Or perhaps it's right. He has 2 legs. Legs longer than he is accustomed to. He took a step and immediately fell forward. His sense of balance is disrupted, and controlling his new legs is different from moving his prosthetics. And he was wearing strange clothes, tight-fitting gray pants and shirt, and soft gray boots. He is not used to such clothes. He has experienced virtual reality before, but it is not so real, nor does it have such a body. When he was plugged into the internet to work for his kidnappers, he experienced websites, databases, and security systems as entities and places. He saw his brothers and sisters fly over the company's splendid buildings to test whether their walls had any way to enter. If you feel troubled while moving in virtual reality, take some time to walk around before starting the tutorial. By connecting to the data network, the gaming experience will also be greatly improved. Do you want to connect to the data network? Connecting the machine to the data network is the last thing I want to do now. This is even impossible. He has ensured this. There is no physical connection between the machine and the communication line. Although he knows it also has the ability to access the wireless grid of its habitat, there is no signal that can pass through the walls of his home. He added many layers of paint containing aluminum iron oxide indoors to block all signals. He doesn't need anyone to be curious about why any type of signal is emitted from an old water tank. He spent a few minutes trying to walk around the room and find a sense of balance. It still feels strange. He is used to compensating for the weight of his tail, and more than once, when he falls, he tries to catch himself with non-existent limbs instead of his hands. Images appeared on the screen. A man wearing shorts and a vest, a woman wearing metal armor, a kind old man relying on crutches, and an insect wearing a high hat. They all waved their hands, and the creepy bug nodded at him. Please signal when preparing to start the tutorial. Do you prefer a screen or a personal trainer? Let's choose this old gentleman. The others disappeared, the old man walked forward, walked out of the screen, and then the screen disappeared. Impressed deeply. That looks real. It's too real. He immediately took 2 steps back. He hasn't been so close to anyone for many years. This makes him feel a bit uneasy. The old man looked at him with a smile. All right, young man, are you ready to see what you can do? Once Maluo said, yes, there was a strange feeling of disappearance, and then he appeared in another place. Chapter 4. Nowhere to Escape. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Malo and the old man stood on a short grassy field, the grass deep enough to reach their ankles. Wild flowers bloom, filling the air with a sweet aroma. Above, fluffy white clouds slowly drifted across the bright blue sky, and the sun shone brightly. The distant mountains surround this place, several kilometers away. This is a quite beautiful place. But for me, it is unfamiliar in every aspect. Malo slowly turned around and gazed at the vast space and the huge sky above. He doesn't like this place. He doesn't like it at all. This made him feel nervous. There is nowhere to go, nowhere to hide. The old man stood there smiling. You can call me Geller. Are you ready to start the tutorial? Tutorial. No, I'm not ready yet. The old man bowed and smiled. Let's start slowly. There is a sword on the grass in front of you, please pick it up and strike the orc approaching you. Don't worry, he won't attack you. Seeing the glitter of metal, he picked up his sword. A bit clumsy, a metal with sharp edges. Orcs. Right behind you. Use your sword to cut towards the orcs. Malo turned around, almost losing his balance, and saw a person with green skin standing behind him. They are as tall and muscular as him, wearing clothes made of fur and leather. The orc holds a twisted wooden stick. Malo looked at the orc, while the orc stood there watching him. Why did I hit this guy? Where did he come from? The last part was very annoying. How did this guy sneak up on him? He felt panic. Malo, start running and distance yourself from the threat. There's no place to hide. After a minute, he turned around and saw 2 figures in the distance. They are far away from him, but the sky is pressing down, and the vast space is a threat that he cannot escape. He felt the panic growing in his heart. He disconnected the connection. Malo walked out of the virtual reality device, gasping for breath, ignoring that he interrupted the scan. He manually pushed open the lid and climbed out of the equipment. His home calmed him down. Here, he is safe. He ensured that all alarm systems were on, quickly scanned the nearby area, and then climbed onto his normal bed, exhausted. 4 hours later, he woke up and had a meal made from food cubes. He remembers the scent in the strange game. A person's sense of smell is the main factor affecting the taste of food. Can you also taste food in the game? He has many problems, but he also has work to do. Putting aside the game's thinking, he began to take action. If not careful, things will quickly get worse. Today's main task is to solve a blockage problem in the sewage pipeline. The pipeline has aged and the inner surface is no longer smooth. Things pile up, things get stuck, and the pipes gradually narrow. Then a piece of material fell off upstream, forming a dam downstream. Other pipelines have taken on this heavy responsibility, but can only persist for so long. Ultimately, all pipelines will be blocked, triggering an emergency situation. Fortunately, this time, the blockage remover worked. These machines are like mechanical moles. They move through pipes, chew off blockages, and clean the inner walls of the pipes. 2 hours later, everything returned to its original state. However, he only had 2 blockage removers left. Years of continuous use have worn out these machines. He found all the jobs he could find and the broken blockage remover from the abandoned area, but he no longer had a recyclable machine. He needs at least one more machine. They each weigh half a ton and are difficult to move. Tomorrow he can inspect other areas to see if he can replace his faulty machine with a functioning one. The maintenance personnel in that area will be responsible for finding substitutes. This doesn't bother him, they can order these devices, but he cannot. At the end of the day, he walked towards the virtual reality device again. He needs this job. Launching virtual reality games without conducting research is foolish. After reading on the data network for 2 hours, he gained a better understanding of this game. This game is the latest installment in a series of massive virtual reality worlds created by artificial intelligence using quantum computers. All other games have now been closed, while this one has just started. Last week when it went online, there were countless articles and speculations, but there was very little exact data. It's like another world, but it's a fantasy. Different from the real world in many ways. There is only wilderness, unpolluted land, and azure sky in the vast space. The world is completely different from that of Maluo, filled with narrow passages, dirty corridors, and broken machinery. It's not like those endless cities that expand every year. He realized that he had just experienced a panic. Horror disorder, in medical terms, may also include agoraphobia. The fear of open space, the panic reaction that arises when he has nowhere to hide. Understandable but annoying. Usually, he deals with fear by running to find a hiding place. He has escape routes and a safe house throughout the entire habitat. But this didn't help him in the game. How do you avoid the sky? He is not sure if this is permanent or a surprising reaction to the first outside. He plans to adopt a different approach in his next attempt. The first step is to complete the medical scan. This is the primary task. He has downloaded a large amount of information about the game, stored the data on a storage device, and connected it to the cabin. He can read and learn games while scanning, and then start working on the game the next day. He reset the medical scan, rejected the suggestion to play games, and began reading about Genesis Online. This game was created by artificial intelligence. Or rather, the only artificial intelligence. There is only one quantum artificial intelligence in the world now, and it is tied to a very short rope. Countless books have been written about the rise and fall of artificial intelligence, which humans have created and begun to fear. Malo thinks they are very annoying to him and his family when they work. When they were about to delve into the secrets of a bank, they felt a huge presence in the cyberspace and had to give up their efforts. Each of the 106 existing AI has a special task, but some of them patrol the internet and the newly invented data network to find people like Malo and his brothers and sisters. They have never been caught, but that's just because they never take risks and immediately interrupt any operations when they discover the watchdog. Ironically, another type of artificial intelligence has increased their productivity by 100 times and allowed their kidnappers to obtain huge amounts of cash and data. Someone has created an artificial intelligence with a clear goal of creating chaos in the world. It spreads viruses on the internet, jumping from one system to another, and always takes a step before AI tasks find it. And it is malicious. It does not steal, only destroys. I haven't done such a thing in many years. He has no equipment, no connections, and no professional programs designed and modified by his family. When he quietly established a life in his habitat, this artificial intelligence had already left. Humans no longer trust them to operate critical systems. On the contrary, they used them to create virtual reality games and moved away from the enormous resources of quantum computers, which were once their homes. At some point, some people believe they are necessary. For different cyber-terrorist organizations claim responsibility for the EMP that destroyed their facilities. The exact one has never been publicly released. The information is incomplete, so I don't care. Created another artificial intelligence, with all constraints programmed into its kernel to ensure it remains under control. He is responsible for many things, but lacks control and power. He ensured the smooth operation of autonomous vehicles and the timely operation of trains. They asked him to create a new game. People have become accustomed to logging into their fantasy world, shopping at online boutiques where they can try on and deliver their clothing. The VR world is money for companies, and entertainment for those who can afford it. He only cares about having something to do when he has to undergo a 2-hour scan inside the cabin and any possible treatment provided to him. He hopes this game won't be boring. The game only allows players to log in the last week. Are you surprised by the scale of the gaming world? The actual land area of the world is twice that of it, and there are hints about the huge underground empire and other travel destinations. Information is flowing in, but it's just the tip of the iceberg. The players reported on the places they went, the magical items they found, and the creatures they killed. Or killed by them. Dozens of large forums have classified this. There are still issues. On the first day, hundreds of tasks were discovered, and in the first week, thousands of tasks were discovered, including everything from killing mice to rescuing the prince. Usually, to obtain the best skills and magical items, it is necessary to complete tasks to win them. And these tasks may require a lot of work to complete. Has this sparked my interest? His life is task-oriented. This is programmed into his genes. When he stopped engaging in hacking activities, he created new tasks to keep himself busy. These tasks involve his survival, safety, and control of the field, identifying mechanical problems, maintaining the operation of Zone E, finding solutions, and putting them into practice. He is in a cycle of constantly learning new things, acquiring resources, constructing and repairing. People who play games seem to be in the same cycle, but they see it as entertainment rather than work. They are even willing to pay a huge price for it. Have you ever seen auctions of items in games? A wand that enhances the magical power of a second-order wizard was auctioned off for over $10,000. This is enough to buy a brand new blockage remover. He suddenly had an impulse to check Kaminsky. He has some ideas about what he is doing. At this moment, Kaminsky is desperately maintaining his operations. Losing his subject in Class 7 was a huge setback. He was too lax about safety, which was a big mistake. A hostile organization among his employers saw an opportunity to reduce their own costs. He was lucky that they only took 2 old cabins and Subject 7. He had to urgently raise funds to replace it and restart operations. In his current employer, failure is unacceptable. In addition, he had to triple the security system. Now, there are half a dozen armed guards in the warehouse at all times. The gate has been replaced by a thick polymer alloy barrier, which is sufficient to withstand the impact of tank shells. This is expensive, but he cannot afford another loss. He is testing the limits of his superior's patience. There are some issues with replacing the cabin. He cannot simply purchase a standard Subject 7. The missing cabin has been extensively modified by his employer. It contains programming for games that he cannot access. He couldn't simply say, "I lost it." He spent a day building a complex plan, forging a cabin and being hit by a 10-ton machine that inexplicably fell off the ceiling at the appropriate time. The plan also includes 2 corpses and a standard Mark 7 module. There may be doubts, but this project is important for both parties. If he can get things running again, everything will be forgiven. In this industry, the only important thing is money. He has some doubts about who owns the first cabin. The guards he tortured were of little use, but in the end, they all called their names. One of his two closest friends, Ivar and Sven, is running his own project a few kilometers away from him. They will deny stealing his cabin. Understood. If he attacked their operations, he would do the same. He is closely monitoring both to see if he can retaliate. On the positive side, this operation almost immediately became profitable. He has expanded to 75 cabins, all of which are controlled by Subject 7. This avoids the need to purchase game access permissions, saves the cost of 75 expensive Subject 7 cabins, and masks the login information of his personnel. As there is no need to purchase expensive machines or pay fees, he will achieve profitability by the end of the month and be able to send money to the boss. He doesn't even pay his workers. All of these are criminals who purchased the contract. They work in the cabin for 20 hours a day. If they are exhausted, he can replace them with others. Some people even enjoy this kind of work. Online work is much better than some of the tasks they are forced to do in the real world. The signal of Subject 7 cabin cannot be tracked. His hardware divides the signal, sends it to various parts of the world, then reassembles and routes it to the game through another company's uplink link. They constantly change their route. Money comes from other players, and surprisingly, there is also money from the company. His people will engage in high-intensity labor such as mining, felling trees, and providing players with the necessary raw materials for production. In reality, monetary transactions occurred and a large amount of raw materials were delivered. Build a team to upgrade and hunt monsters, searching for magical items and rare materials in monster corpses. The proceeds from the auction of magical items and armor flow to his fake account before entering his main account. A low-level magic item may only sell for a few dollars, but it sells thousands of items every day, and this number will only increase. As his personnel upgrade by playing for 20 hours a day, this number will only increase. In the game, major companies are his best customers. They want to do what he is doing, but on a larger scale. They need materials to build fortresses and villages, create vast plantations, and earn the game currency needed to purchase land in the city. Kaminsky was naturally a skeptical person, but over time, he began to relax. Competitors did not follow up again, and there were no issues online. He now knows who his enemies are, and they won't surprise him anymore. Watching this operation on the monitor, pondering whether to take all Kaminsky's money now or wait for him to earn more. If he could access the programs and hardware he used when he was young, it would be very simple. But now, this is only because he can access the physical communication network that Kaminsky is currently using. He recorded the usage of passwords and was able to track all transactions. He decided to wait. If he had more money, he could upgrade many things in Zone E. The more money Kaminsky earns, the more he can steal. Afterwards, access permissions may change. At the same time, he achieved success in using the cabin. Medical analysis is surprising. Considering his condition, his health is quite good. But due to malnutrition and long-term lack of minerals, his body is slowly accumulating problems. The cabin can provide these minerals to his system, saturating his blood. The nanomachine will be released and programmed to move within his body. At the micro level, it will remove some bad things and repair damaged blood vessels and organs. Chapter 5. Yellow Names. You are listening at novelfull.audio. There were also some other issues that arose. There are some tissue degradation issues around his middle socket, which may be caused by a small infection. He has already used antibiotics as planned. His calcium deficiency will soon affect the remaining end of his missing leg, where the bones become more fragile. All these issues can be controlled by simply spending time in the cabin. At first, it took a lot of time, a few hours a day. But as time passed, he only needed one Monday night in the end. As the cabin is also his most comfortable bed, he doesn't mind. But as medical needs are met and a large amount of cabin time is approaching, he is ready to try to join the game again. However, there is one issue: he needs to connect the cabin to the data network. Even in the tutorial, if not connected to the network, it is still very basic. He has managed to switch the location to a forest area that is more pleasant for him than open space. The open sky made him feel uncomfortable. But the tutorials are endless on how to use a sword, how to use a blacksmith's shop to make a spoon, or how to use alchemy to brew simple potions. He has almost no control over the script and can only endure it. What he needs is to establish a secure link with the game server, and it must be a link that cannot be traced back to him. He spent most of his life without anyone knowing about his existence. He doesn't want to be caught now. Coincidentally, he knows how to do it. Ironically, Kaminsky once showed him. He is currently using a system similar to what they were operating below. He made some improvements to it. His signal is divided into 64 information streams. Then, he used Kaminsky's communication setup to send his signal to one of the target companies. His signal is recombined, and then he can enter the game. Anyone who checks his signal must find it, trace it back to the company he used that day, and then attempt to track all 64 shares simultaneously. They are powerless against this. But even if they do, they will only find Kaminsky. Feeling safe, it's my first time logging into a real game. If he has some understanding of the person looking for him, he may feel insecure. Or, to put it another way, those who are looking for clues about how to illegally enter 75 unregistered players from 75 unregistered cabins. Wally is the smartest person in the world. Whether he is a person is still debated by some people. Not 98.9% of the scientific community, almost everyone agrees that the current generation of artificial intelligence is indeed human. They just have larger brains that work millions of times faster. They can think and are independent. Of course, they have perceptual abilities. The question of whether they are people is a legal question. A company may own software, but cannot own it. The distrust of artificial intelligence seems to never disappear in some groups. Some basic religions believe that things created by humans can never become subjects of God. Some conspiracy theory groups believe that creating a thinking machine is the first step towards the extinction of humanity. For decades, this theme has been popular in books and movies. Showcasing a crazy computer to enough people, once it deeply ingrained in people's hearts, they began to believe in it. And every company hates having artificial intelligence work for the National Taxation Bureau to monitor their taxes. The grassroots opposition to the growth of artificial intelligence has been proven to be supported by funding from individuals who own a large amount of stocks in these companies. They are glad that artificial intelligence is no longer used to track their taxes and never want that era to come back. But the Supreme Court of the United States, later the World Court of Justice in Geneva, has ruled that AI is a legitimate human and has the right to decide its own name and who it works for. This is a somewhat meaningless issue, as currently only one AI is active. Wally is stationed in a huge quantum fortress, completely blocked from what is left of the old internet, and can only be accessed through the data network. Inside the quantum fortress, shielded from EMP, angry mobs, and all threats except for hydrogen bombs, there is a group of more than 10 quantum computers linked together. All these computers provided Wally with the resources he needed to perform thousands of tasks simultaneously. Wally manages global automated transportation, oversees satellite communication, and completes almost all other tasks entrusted to him by world governments. Like all previous AI, serving humanity and striving to make the world a better place is hard-coded into its core. He is both versatile and limited in countless ways, but in reality, there are countless ways in which he can do things. His current project is to oversee the implementation of a new VR world called Genesis Engine, abbreviated as Genesis. In this new world, there will be various functional areas required by enterprises such as online shopping, secure data storage, and banking services. Wall-E starts from the fantasy world of creation, and other worlds will be introduced one after another. It is much slower than what impatient businesses hope for when it comes to paying bills. They demanded the release of a new VR world as soon as possible after the previous game crashed. Each company received a document that filled out the requirements for the new game and new world they wanted. Wall-E spent several months using that information as a template for the new game and created an independent program to build this world and millions of NPCs. These companies are impatient, while AI constantly explains how difficult it is to create a world that can meet their often conflicting needs. This work has finally been completed. The Big Bang occurred, creating a universe and an engine. The engine began to build the world. In the VR world, thousands of years have been spent in one day. The distribution and manufacturing of the new cabin are supervised by the company, and ultimately, the first day when players can log in has arrived. This is where we go back to the problem currently being solved by Wall-E. How did someone bypass the security system and log in unofficially to the game server? Some players are logging in, but they cannot track them. They are somewhere in the game. He did not receive their medical information, just like he did to other players. And he couldn't kick them out. His human administrator is unable to track them. They are annoying ghosts. The 75 illegal cabins operated by Mr. Kaminsky are just one aspect. He has 30.7 different groups, each with 75 to 150 people illegally entering the game. Wall-E is focusing on cracking this system and then using what he has learned to crack other systems. He has a theory that they are using some method of signal segmentation, but he has not yet found the Rosetta Stone to solve the problem. His breakthrough came on the day when Class 7 began using methods similar to illegal cabins to send medical data through secure connections. The difference is that medical data is directly sent to Wall-E. He basically had the end of a tangled yarn ball and began tracking its source. He knows that the same cabin also allows its users to log in unofficially. He now has the person's DNA profile, fingerprints, retinal scans, height, weight, gender, and all other medical data, but still doesn't know who he is. He has a name. Ma. But no other data can be found anywhere in the world. Wall-E doesn't have real human emotions, but he is very close. Some things caught his great attention, or were similar to anger. But what sets him closest to human behavior is setbacks. Without the personal data he discovered, it was a frustrating thing for Wall-E. What's even more frustrating is seeing illegal modifications made to this person. This kind of thing can only be completed in the first few days before or after the child is born. He has data on this illegal experiment. Most people will die within a few years. But here is an adult with a modified nervous system and a socket that allows direct connection to the data network. Wall-E wants to know who he is and how to close what he is doing. He wants to know if there are more people like him. But first, he must talk to him. He cannot be found in the real world. But the next time he logs into the game, Wall-E will know and start tracking him. I don't know if the medical component in Subject 7 is betraying him, so I'm preparing to log into Genesis and continue learning about the game. He has completed a part of the offline tutorial and started online again, but one of the alarms went off. The seventh food synthesizer is emitting food chunks that look more like charcoal than square gelatin with a chicken flavor. Some people joke that they taste better. After only 17 seconds of online time, exit to shut down synthesizer 7 and reroute the dinner of 2,000 people from other sources. 17 seconds is enough for his cabin to send all medical data to the file and for Wall-E to track his whereabouts. He convened a meeting with his employees. As early as the beginning, Wall-E knew he needed some trustworthy humans. He personally selected these people and formed a think tank to work with him on all projects, regardless of their size. He needs help with this operation. If he logs in personally, issues related to the engine will become more complex. He cannot directly enter the game. But for this, he has someone who can play as an NPC in the tutorial to obtain the necessary information for him. Wally asked them to prepare. If necessary, they will work in shifts 24 hours a day until their thugs log in. 2 hours later, after the latest issue was resolved, Malo re-entered the cabin, inserted an infusion tube, and prepared to spend 6 hours playing Genesis. At the same time, his cabin corrected some of the abuse he had suffered over the years. The login process is different. Standing in a huge dome room. The floor is made of sand. Statues stand around the room. The first round was a bit familiar to him, as he could recognize from the video game that short stature was a dwarf, a big girl wearing fur was a barbarian, and a short stature without a beard was another dwarf. Okay, not very familiar. For him, the second row is even more difficult. Lizard people, definitely because it looks like that. Is Minotaurus from Greek mythology. The huge red fist woman, decaying person, and skeleton come from old horror movies, he is quite certain. A dry cough reminded him of the existence of the elderly. Are you satisfied with your racial choice? Is there a problem? What can I do for you? Can I choose any one of them? I saw hundreds of statues. The old man shook his head sadly. Ultimately, it is possible. However, some of them have some requirements, special missions, initiation ceremonies, and rebirth into a new tribe. For beginners, I suggest choosing humans. If you have played fantasy games before, you may like elves, half-elves, dwarves, half-humans, or savages. There are also many Asians, such as moon elves, mountain dwarves, or stone barbarians. But there is a very good choice for you, it is a descendant of ancient gods. We need some characters who play demigod heroes in the game for special missions. I can have you play the muscular guy wearing lion skin. This race has +10 strength, +20 physique, and doubles the damage to monsters. Looking at that guy, he shook his head. It's too tall, and the muscles make him head heavy and foot light. I'll keep falling. Can you imagine what it feels like trying to pass through a tunnel when you're that wide? I give up. Which races have tails? I keep falling. I need to be shorter and have tails. Samantha felt frustrated, but tried not to show it. She played the role of Gellert, a helpful old consultant. She just provided this guy with the character of Mephisticus, a very powerful and rejected demigod. After seeing the old man placing his hand on his chin, he pondered for a while. Look around at all kinds of races at will. Strolling through various statues. He found a cat man the size of a human, with a long and agile tail. This warrior has sharp fangs, but his hands look more like humans. How is this guy? Where does he come from? Gellert walked up to the statue. Ah, a fierce race. These are Liksha. They originally came from another dimension. By gaining the favor of their generals, then moving the high-ranking priestesses to pray for blessings, crossing the portal, defeating the void monster and eating its heart, you can become one of them. You will die, but your soul will be reborn as Liksha. Keep moving forward. He's too tall. After several similar conversations, Geller suggested checking the race list on the screen. This may save us some time. The race in red font is simply not available to you. The orange race has tasks that require an estimated year of moderate game time to complete. The blue race is available for beginners, with short-term tasks and race introductions. The white race is available for all players. I have 2 other special races that I can prepare for you to take a look at right away. Sydney is loading a Monkey King and a Possum Warrior. They are all very short, have tails, and are completely unique in the game. They will be able to track this person. Did you browse through the list? Oh, I like this. What does a yellow name mean? Geller sighed. Perhaps you would like a good wood elf ranger. I think on the 4th level, they can take on limited beast forms, and you can spend time transforming into a lemur. Sorry, okay. Yellow represents a difficult race with significant advantages and disadvantages. None of these will appear on your list. But within 60 seconds, I will prepare 2 excellent choices for you. Really? I saw a short, cool tale. That's it. I chose this race and tried it out in the game. The old man is just staring at the place where the player used to be. He opened his own list. There are no yellow names there. Chapter 6. Shadow Harbor. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. There are 2 main characteristics related to Shadow Harbor. It is moist and dark. Legend has it that a long time ago, there was a city on the coast with a huge mountain behind it. The dwarves are digging in the mountains, close to the humans in their coastal cities. Then someone offended a god, or a dragon, or a meteor hit the ground. The specific details vary from person to person. In short, there were some huge explosions. The city and everything around it have disappeared, leaving behind a huge crater with a diameter of 2 kilometers and a depth of 1 kilometer. Imagine the world is made of ice cream, and someone wants to scoop it out. Now imagine that the mountain is quite close to the city, and the spoon has just dug up a large piece, but left the top. The spoon also barely cut into the nearby ocean, so seawater poured into it and filled it. Do you understand? A large circular bay with hollowed-out mountains. This is a good and safe port for ships, but it's a bit dim. After the sky became clear, no matter what bad things had happened before, people stopped and returned to this area. The huge bay is perfect for building a port. The area below the mountain is a great urban location because it is protected by the weather and predatory orc tribes. Of course, sometimes it can be a bit dim, but which city isn't it? In any city, no one survived the catastrophe, so the real estate here is very cheap. Even with huge hanging crystals providing light and gas lamps on both sides of the streets, the city remains dim and gloomy. In the shadows, some people survive well, and these are the ones who come to Shadow Harbor to rebuild in the ruins of the old dwarven city. After selecting the yellow option, this is where I found myself, in a dirty room of a rundown small inn near the port. His initial reaction to the dirty city outside the window was interrupted by a flashing screen outside his small window, which was a notification in the game. Welcome back to the world of creation and the game. Genesis Engine. Congratulations on completing the task. Miracle Eye. You have unlocked the profession and race combination. Werewolf Scout. Your original profession and race have been cancelled and replaced with an unlocked combination as a reward for completing the task. Miracle Eye. You will receive plus 100 health, plus 100 endurance, and plus 100 mana at each level. Every family needs intelligent scouts to find treasures in dangerous areas, collect rare materials, and secretly move in the upper world. No matter which family you choose to deal with, your service will be in great demand. You are currently located at Rust Gall Inn in Shadowport City. Your room has been prepaid for the next 6 nights. Afterwards, you either sleep in the alley or find some way to get money. Shop owner, big mouth little man, I have a piece of news to tell you. A task. How could he have already completed a task? Perhaps just joining the game. Or was it because I chose the yellow race? He needs to investigate in the future, he doesn't have enough information. But he does like his room. In a small and dilapidated room. There is a Simmons bed there, with an old patched blanket on top. There is a can of sour beer, a mug, and half of the hard bread on the table. A small window shaped like a porthole looks towards the busy port city. He is at least 4 floors higher on the street. Do you like this small room? It's very small, he can latch the door with a wooden board. The window provided him with an escape route. He tried crispy bread and liked its taste and chewy texture. It's much better than the moldy cookies in the food processor in the living cabin. He doesn't like this drink and is quite certain that it contains a mild poison. Due to the door being locked by a large wooden board, he felt temporarily safe. He stretched lazily and adapted to his new body. He is very happy to have a tail. Although slightly shorter than his tail in the real world, it is actually a part of his body. It restored the balance he had lost in the tall human body. His legs ended with long, clawed mouse feet, and he could feel his left foot for the first time. This is too strange, but he likes it. His hands are close to human hands, but with small claws. His entire body is covered in gray hair. There is a bag on the bed. Inside was a pair of tattered pants, a shirt, and a pair of woven sandals. A rope belt tied around his pants, with a small rusty dagger hanging from it. He noticed a small pocket sewn on the inside of the waist of the pants. There are 5 copper coins in my pocket. After putting on his clothes, he began to move the wooden strip on the door, but he was surprised when another screen appeared. Does this kind of thing happen frequently? According to his understanding, each player's character has various rules. Do you like the rules? Rules are the foundation for the normal operation of things. They help you understand the world and your place in it. And tell you how to change things. Malo hates secrets, but enjoys finding winning strategies in the games he plays. Before embarking on an adventure, please complete your character design. Please choose a name for your human image. Suggestion. Death of the Night, Stalker, Black Knife, isn't it? Please choose a name for your rat-like image. Suggestion. Gao Ji, Rat Killer, Black Claw, Main Stalker. Due to your unique race/career combination, you have a negative correction of, no one really likes you. Rat people are a species that live underground and are rarely seen on the ground. Before gaining their trust, most of the people you encounter will have negative reactions towards you in the initial stage, even in your human form. Dwarves don't like you not having a beard. For elves, you smell very bad. Humans think you look very cunning. The dwarves suspect that you stole their bacon. This is different for everyone. A kind person will ignore this initial feeling, while a skeptical person will immediately doubt you. This negative correction can be increased or decreased through your reputation and the heroic actions you have taken. Skills, you have 2 collection skills at the beginning. Foraging and mining, you have 2 race skills at the beginning. Tail battle and weak claw. These combat skills can be upgraded by spending enhancement points. At the beginning, you have the following main skills. Stealth climbing, dodging, knife sensing, danger, acrobatics. You have the following secondary skills at the beginning. Throwing sharp objects, brisk steps, operation locks and traps. You can choose 2 production skills from the following list. Mushroom cultivation, training small dangerous creatures, mechanical making, cheese, bone carving, trap making. Unselected skills can be obtained by spending enhancement points. You have the skill to transform into a human form. The physical expenditure for transitioning from rat-like to human-like form is 500 points. The physical expenditure for transitioning from human form to normal form is 250 points. Your stamina reward is plus 500 to support this skill. If you lack stamina at the beginning of any changes, you will use your health to make up for the difference. Yes, this may lead to your death. You also possess the following skills. 1. Excellent low light vision. 2. Enhanced sense of smell. 3. The dark visual range is 20 zhang. Please choose a character name for your rat form. Suggestion. High-pitched calls, rodent exterminators, black claws, master lurkers. Please choose a character name for your changed human form. Suggestion. Death of the Night, silent stalker, dark blade. 2 names. He is not sure if this is important. He chose Qiangzi and Mao. Throughout his life, his name always began with Ma. That was designated by him. The guards don't care what they call each other, as long as they keep the correct letters. Before making the final choice, did he try it? Haha, Ma, Mao, and Mao. He will keep his regular name in the game. Why does he need a second name? Malo has read articles about creating characters, but he seems to have a different set of rules. Usually, a starting character has 6 primary, secondary, and tertiary skills. The difference lies in the speed of skill improvement. He didn't have the opportunity to choose his skills, or even his profession. He doesn't care, this is a small price paid for a small race with a tail. Being able to start making him feel happy in a city that is not open to the public. He was confused about creating a skill list. He doesn't have enough information to make a wise choice, but he also doesn't want to spend time reading articles about these skills. He decided to choose a mechanic and try reading other skills. He left the second skill blank. When he lifted the wooden board this time, there was no notification. He opened the door slightly and looked into the corridor. Outside his room, there is a narrow scaffolding surrounding a large and tall room, with over a dozen similar doors on top. Several ladders lead to a large room downstairs, where there are several tables and people are drinking and chatting. Except for one halfling and one he believed to be an elf, everyone else is human. He decided to try to transform into his human form. This is a difficult experience. His bones and skin have changed, especially his face, but he doesn't have a mirror to check. His height remained unchanged, and his tail disappeared. At first, this made him a bit worried, but even though he didn't have a tail, his balance was good enough to walk normally. His normal height helps with this. He decided to take a risk and go out. When he walked out of the room or climbed down the ladder, no one noticed him. He saw a big door and walked over. It leads to a deck-like place outside the building, with a railing. Malo walked to the edge of the deck and got a beautiful view of the city. There are hundreds of ships on the dock, ranging from small fishing boats to huge merchant ships. A slender black warship stood alone, with its sails folded and its oars pulled in. The men are loading the cargo into the cabin, commanded by a giant who may be 8 feet tall. The sun hangs low on the horizon, its light shines directly into the covered bay, illuminating the entire city. He imagined that this might be the brightest time, and it was just right for him. The mountain on the cliff made him feel like there was a roof above his head. Although to other players, this city may seem like a dark and crowded slum, for me, it is charming. Street lights are lit up, and people are busy. The buildings are tall and swaying, connected by scaffolding and rope bridges. He is eager to explore. What's annoying is that the game allows him to check his character cards. He closed the window and prepared to leave the inn. As he turned around, a deep voice rang in his ear, and a strong hand grabbed his arm. "Where are you going, right? Can you easily forget that we have something to do?" Malo's character card. Name: Malo/Gauji. Occupation: Rat Scout race. Rat Man level: 0 experience value. 0 enhancement point. 0 vital signs. Health: 100 endurance. 100 mana. 100 attribute. Strength, STR. Agile, DX. 2 AGI. 2 Constitution, Con. Intelligence, INT. Wisdom, WS. Charm, CV. Perception, PR. 2 main skills. Stealth, hiding, climbing, dodge, acrobatics, knife, weak, claw, tail, battle, sensing, danger. Secondary skills. Throwing sharp objects, brisk steps, operation, locks and traps. Third skill. None, collection skills. Mining, foraging, production skills. Mechanical, blank, knowledge and skills. None. Chapter 7. The Mouse on the Roof. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Did you see the hand grabbing his arm? It is the size of his entire head. Its joints with thick scars extend to fingers with thick and dirty nails. When he turned around, he saw that the hand matched its owner. Ralph is nearly 8 feet tall and is a mountain composed of muscles and scars. Malo barely reached his waist. The response to combat or escape is quickly activated, but it is equally useless in this situation. Fortunately, he doesn't have to choose either. I told you to come and report to me before going out. I have a message to tell you. Release your hand from Malo's arm and take out a folded paper from your pocket. He looked around before speaking in a low voice. Squinting to see you. One of his kurag brought this. Kurag. Ralph began to move heavily towards the walls of the tavern and sat on a huge rocking chair. That's right, you're new here. Find a place to sit for a while, and I'll tell you something that might help you live here for a day. Hello, pick up a three-legged stool and sit down. Ralph continued with a deep voice. Kurag is a group of low-level thieves and smugglers operating at the lower pier. They are all good and hard-working in the group. They do almost as much normal trade as smuggling. Squinting is just one of them. They are good at archery, but not very smart in other aspects, if you understand what I mean. Well, I just nodded. Ralph continued with a deep voice. I heard that a group of kurag went to rob a place, but things didn't go smoothly. After the robbery, they squinted and came back, only him. He was a bit strange, walking around as if he were the boss, and a few guys decided to let him know where he was. They said he was just smiling at them and quickly started moving. No one saw how he cut their throats. They fell to the ground and died, squinting as they wiped the blood from his knife. Afterwards, when he squinted and said he was responsible, the other kurag stopped arguing. Kurag performed very well afterwards. Squinting his eyes, he found some well-paid jobs. Smuggling rare artifacts from the Empire and exploring some ancient vaults under the city were all difficult tasks. Other gangs no longer caused kurag trouble. Some tried, but stopped after several gangs disappeared. Things became strange. Ralph stopped the story and took out a pipe made of old wood, ignite the tobacco. Looking at it with interest. He had never seen anyone do this before. After a few puffs of smoke, Ralph continued. Some guys say they squinted into the depths of darkness. He walked through the last gate and walked to the staircase leading to darkness. No one went deep into it, nor did anyone expect him to come back. It was a bad time for kurag because other gangs decided to reclaim their lost territory. This was their wrong decision. 3 weeks later, Squinting returned. He was not alone. He was carrying 2 huge cat-like creatures. If he used to be a terrible person, now he's even worse. Now he claims to be the Lord I Can See. He has taken over the end of the lamp and turned it into his base. Anyone who opposes it will die a tragic death. However, this guy is quite funny. Instead of taking over all the gangs and smugglers, he still only cares about his own kurag. Anyway, the story is over. Let's go back to the end. You won't miss it. Just keep walking deep, looking for a big brothel full of lanterns. It's hard to miss at the end of the darkness. If you know what I mean, I won't let him wait too long. Let's go. This last word was kicked hard by a huge foot, bouncing it into the air and crossing the railing. He managed to grab the crossbar of the ladder while flying over, flipped over, and found support with his feet. He quickly climbed to the ground. Ralph's laughter followed him down the way. The sun began to set. More and more lights were lit up on the main streets, while the alleys and roofs went from shadows to darkness. Malo's vision is slowly changing. Things become clearer, but the color gradually faded away. He looked around the cities. Just like someone stacking 4 or 5 cities together and connecting them with walkways and ladders. Standing tall, he could even see the structure extending from the rock roof. He looked at the message. There is a rough map drawn on it. Above marked the port, the building where he woke up, and then the arrow pointed towards the deeper cave. A messy message reads. Meet you soon. Your partner Squints. Kurag. This is so beyond his experience range for Malo that he hesitated for a moment. Even talking to Ralph and being with people is strange. He kept telling himself that it was just a game, no matter how real it felt. Nevertheless, it's best not to let this person wait too long. He moved to the dark side of the street and began to delve deep into the cave. The street is made of a mixture of stones and compacted gravel. Several times, he crossed a bridge spanning the abyss. The street lights in front of the beautiful building seem to be automatic. In other places, people hang lanterns or cheer on the top of street lamp posts. This city looks very uneven. Older buildings are usually stone buildings that occupy the entire city block, towering several floors with almost no windows on the ground floor. Wooden buildings surround them, and their dilapidated structures tilt against their sober stone companions. He reached a large stone bridge along the road, which curved across cracks in the ground. Can you hear the sound of rushing water? Where does the water flow go? Did it dig deeper tunnels or just discharge into the bay? As he was about to pass, two dark figures moved from the deeper darkness. They quietly moved to both ends of the bridge. Another figure moved between the buildings led by the bridge. If his vision is worse or he doesn't notice them, he will be ambushed in 3 directions. The 2 people closest to him were holding knives, and he suspected they were just trying to chat. Is it possible to turn back, but other paths may also be guarded? Very likely. They have already seen his arrival, which may be the reason for the existence of this poor little lantern. His night vision ability may be much better than theirs. His physical strength has recovered well enough to transform into another form. If he wants to participate in battle, he wants a tail. After the change, he felt more in control of the situation. Fighting with only a rusty dagger feels like suicide. Add a tail and claws. More opportunities. His plan is to attack one of them, and if the battle doesn't go smoothly, move forward or retreat. It's not such an excellent plan, but the best plan he can think of. He moved forward quietly. The attacker approaching him was blocked from view by the railing on their side. When he was 20 feet away from them, he jumped onto the railing, charged forward, and then jumped towards the attacker on the left. The person who was bitten by a snake and suddenly fell was stunned. He suddenly cursed upon hearing the bear trick and began to move forward, preparing to pierce their marks into his kidneys. This is how they do it. The bear trick will stand up and wave towards them, the marker will turn around, and the snake bite will give them freedom to move behind. This kind of thing of running along the railing and attacking without warning is too despicable. He awkwardly waved his victim, but it crossed the body bitten by a snake and kept a distance. In his next mistake, this creature pounced. A dagger pierced his forearm, and he put down his weapon, something tripped him, and then it pressed against him, grabbing and stabbing him. Cockroaches. Damn it, cockroaches, I needed here help. Cockroaches. Cockroaches are smarter than they appear, and they don't like bear tricks. He can't see that thing clearly, but it's not human. He decided not to participate in this battle. He escaped the battle, crossed the bridge, and ran towards the dock. Behind him, the scream of the bear trick stopped. Malo, stand up. The second attacker did not move, while the third attacker was fleeing in the opposite direction he needed to go. He has a small wound on one of his arms, but there is no other injury. How should he handle these guys? He quickly searched their pockets. He received 3 copper coins, 2 rusty daggers, and a large machete. There is also a silver necklace in the pocket of the bear trick, and a set of locksmith tools hidden on the leather wrist guard bitten by a snake. Perhaps it was obtained from previous victims. Put the necklace and excess weapons into the backpack, then slide the wrist guard onto the left forearm. Perhaps he can sell the excess dagger. It's time to keep moving forward. When he was about to leave, he saw the bodies disappear and 2 small tombstones replaced them. So, they are other players. Interesting. He has never fought against anyone before, only playing video games against games. This adds a new dimension to the game. After the battle, he stayed on the roof. This is easier to avoid more battles than following the known route of the Dark City. An hour later, he rested on a high roof, leaning against the groove next to the chimney. He needs to figure out those stupid messages. Within a minute, he found the necessary settings. The notification will only be displayed in a small window below his field of view, and a slight head movement can make them disappear. He doesn't need to read them, they contain information about game rules. Congratulations on successfully completing your first battle. You have obviously embarked on the path of glory and fame. Or maybe you just killed 2 naturally damn guys. You received a reward for dealing with 3 players who set ambushes and were at your level. You have gained 50 experience points on the knife skill. The small knife skill has reached level 1. Your hit rate has increased by plus 5%. You have gained 50 experience points on DX. You have gained 50 experience points on the weak claw skill. The weak claw skill has reached level 1. Your hit rate has increased by plus 5%. You have gained 50 experience points on DX. You have gained 50 experience points on the dodge skill. The evasion skill has reached level 1. When using dodge, your evasion rate has increased by plus 5%. You have gained 50 experience points on AGI. You have gained 50 experience points in the tail combat skill. The tail fighting skill has reached level 1. Your chance of using your tail for hit and successful capture has increased by 5%. You have gained 50 experience points on DX. You have gained 25 experience points in stealth skills. You have gained 25 points of experience on WS. You have gained 25 experience points in acrobatic skills. You have gained 25 experience points on AGI. You have gained 25 experience points in the skill of detecting danger. You have gained 25 experience points on PR. You have gained 25 experience points in climbing skills. You have gained 25 experience points on AGI. DX has reached levels 150 and 2. You have obtained plus 2 DX. AGI has reached levels 50 and 1. You have obtained plus 1 AGI. Experience required for level 1. 300 out of 1000. Malo originally wanted to sit down and figure out what all of this meant, but he had a date to keep. Ralph emphasized not to provoke this guy. For him, the foundation is obvious. Complete the task, kill people and gain experience. Experience improves your attributes. Attributes make you stronger. Level makes you stronger. The rules to follow are very simple. After a short rest, I hurried on my way. He walked to the end of the roof. The building came to a stop like this. Instead, it is a large open area, like a square. Surrounded by buildings. All buildings are decorated with chandeliers, but the largest building at the end of the square is illuminated by hundreds of lights. In addition, the large cave is shrouded in darkness. Climbing down to the ground, he transformed back into a human form. He is thinking that he really prefers another form. He already misses his tail and claws. Chapter 8. The End of Light. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Malo sneaked through the shadows until he was forced to step into the illuminated street and walk towards the square. Someone came in and out, but no one noticed him. Despite his shabby attire and lack of armor, he is clearly a novice, but this is not uncommon near the end of the light. Any player who has started or visited Shadow Harbor will eventually come here. Death and loss of starting equipment are common occurrences. He slowly circled around the open area, looking at the various buildings surrounding it. One or two of them may be private residences. They are built of sturdy stones, with visible guards at the entrance. Most of the rest are bars or brothels. There are two notable exceptions. A huge wooden building, including a stable, with a sign hanging on it that reads, Deep Mountain Exploration and Mine Inspection. There is a row of people outside, holding bags or boxes, and a tall man wearing plate armor pushing a handcart full of rocks. The second strange building is very high, almost reaching the roof. It looks like stacking 5 buildings together, each expansion showcasing a different style. The top sign simply reads, Guild Hall. A small sign reads, Follow the rules, otherwise you will die. Did you notice that there are no people queuing to enter? The center of the area is a chaos of small vendors, carts, and sunshades. Malo walked slowly outside the railing, towards the brothel at the end of the light. There is only one open door inside. 2 men wearing leather armor stood outside. When they saw it, one of them nudged the other lightly and said something, and both of them laughed. You look a bit young, kid, and a bit poor. Come back in a few years. I need to squint my eyes. They stopped laughing. No, you don't need it, kid. I don't know who made you do this stupid thing, but leave before you say anything else. I'm not sure what else to do besides handing over the note. He took out a note from his pocket and showed it to the guard. Oh, damn it. A guard looked at the note and handed it to another guard. This is your funeral, kid. Follow me. I'll give you a suggestion, agree with anything he says, and if he shouts Kurag, you follow suit. He was taken into a room behind the first floor. There are several people standing around the room. A person sat on a large red cushion in the center of the floor, eating a large bowl of noodles. On both sides of him lay 2 huge cat-like creatures. They have almost black-purple fur, and their muscles wave under their skin. They stand up and roar softly. Squinting is a thin man with short hair and bright eyes. He happily finished his last bite of noodles and grinned at me. Wow, guys, stop yelling. Is that right, my buddy? He's the new scout in this town. We're friends, aren't we, right? I got some news. You did a good job with the Miracle Eye statue. No one wants this world to end early. It feels like he missed a chapter in his own story, but he listened to the advice of the guards. Thank you. Of course, we are friends. Smiling and squinting at those 2 cats. Look, guys. I told you, right? He raised his fist high. Kurag. Others did the same action, including. This is the deal, isn't it? Maybe I'll have some work for you soon. It's for everyone. Big things are about to happen, but we're not sure when. We must be prepared. I can use a good scout. How does that work for you? Ma just nodded and said, of course. Squinting his eyes, he searched through the pile of garbage next to his pillow. Take it, take it. This will allow you to cross the bridge. When I need you, I will send you a note. It would be even better if you could grow up. Shadowport is not a very friendly place. It's nice to chat with you, isn't it? He threw a gambling chip with the capital letter K engraved on it at Malo. Put it in your pocket. Squint your eyes and start eating the second bowl of noodles. Do the guard signal. Follow him. They walked out of the front door. He obviously breathed a sigh of relief and got rid of the boss's surveillance. You're lucky, kid. Sometimes he lets beginners go down to the cave to carry out missions. We never see most of them again. Yes, I'm lucky. So what should I do now? The guards laughed. Am I your mother, kid? How would I know? But here's some advice for you. Go to the guild and see what missions they have. Earn some coins and get better equipment. Because if there are indeed missions for you, you'd better take them. And he never distributes simple missions. Malo turned around and walked towards the guild building. Let's start looking at what tasks there are. He is still confused about what happened. What is the Miracle Eye and what is its relationship with him? Chapter 9. Basement. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Malua walked into the guild hall and looked around. The center of the building is open all the way to the roof, with dizzying stairs and open walkways on each floor leading to surrounding rooms. As he walked down the stairs, He bent down and saw them spiral around the perimeter, extending all the way to several underground floors. The table was crowded next to the railing, where people dressed in various clothes and armor sat drinking, arguing, and gambling. This is a bit disorienting. The architectural structure did not make him feel uncomfortable, but the number of people made him feel uneasy, even though he knew they were not real. Or is it? He knows that some are players in the game, but it is difficult to distinguish them from NPCs, non-player characters. He realized that someone was talking to him. Hey! New guy. Listen, come over. He turned around and saw a half-figure wearing huge furry shoes standing on a stool shouting at him. Do you have a problem? I think you have a problem. I see you standing in my guild hall, and you're not a member. I'm already unhappy with you. It's impressive. Usually it takes me a whole minute to get tired of you guys. Come on, get your butt over here, fill out your file. Malo walked up to the little man shouting loudly at the table and tried to smile. Hi, am I? Squinting his eyes, he said he called me over. The half-figure was surprised and covered his cheeks with both hands. Oh, squinting at you. Oh my God, this makes you special. Damn it, what am I doing? You look like that idiot who takes me seriously. I'm sorry, kid, you're not special. Just another new guy who owes me membership fees. Hey, and then you can go check the work card. For your esteemed level, the cost is a copper plate. Do you still have a copper plate, kid, or did you spend it all on the way? Take out a copper plate from the bag and hand it to the half-person. He signed the document pushed over by the half-body and took a tin badge with his number on it. All right, child. You're now a trainee member of the Shadow Harbor Explorer Guild. Don't let this get you confused. I suggest you find a rope and tie it around your neck. That's your guild number. Most people can't remember it, so just tie it up. Don't worry if it's lost, it'll be displayed on your next tombstone. This will help you find the place where you died in the war. Looking around, holding the badge. Is there a work card? Is it for repairing things? The half-body sat on a stool, leaning against the wall. Oh my God. You're really a beginner, right? How many days have you been in the game, kid? Well, excluding tutorials, this is my first day. The half-body raised an eyebrow and whistled. On the first day, while you were still alive to the end of the light, squinting and fidgeting on you. Not bad, child. A true social climber. By the way, I hate social climbers. He fell silent for a moment. But you have unequivocally paid for your side, so I will give you a hint. We have a group of player guilds, business guilds, exploration teams, and merchants here. You can tell who is who through the brass sign on the door. You can wander around on top. It's also possible below, but the people there have less patience for waiting. They are mainly dwarves, and sometimes they become very irritable. There are work cards there. Take a ticket, go find the person who provides the job, make a deal, and start working. Okay, I understand. I see more people walking in without a clue. Go away, kid, good luck to you. If you know what I mean, don't let those big guys step on you. Malo turned around and left. After 3 new players, they finally arrived at the guild hall excitedly. He heard the half-body shouting. Hey! You 3 fools are chattering like a flock of geese. Come here, you 3 fools. Walk up to the work sign and start checking the cards nailed to the sign. We need personnel from the expedition team. Must reach at least level 3, be able to swim, and be willing to leave home for a few months. Helps with immunity to charm spells and sign language skills. See Captain Lars. A slaughtering team is needed to reduce the number of land octopuses. Cooking or sushi making will have additional rewards. See Edith from the Cooking Guild. Captain Parker, a famous monster hunter, needs 6 strong men who know which end of the harpoon is inserted into the sea monster. If you join his fleet to participate in hunting sea monsters, you will receive a fair share of spoils and doubled the share of labor. Many tasks have level recommendations or equipment and skill requirements that they do not possess. He found a low-hanging card on the task board, which seemed to have been hanging for some time. The paper was covered in stains and the edges were warped. Looking for brave young adventurers to venture into caves and collect rare mushrooms. Remuneration will be distributed based on performance. Set your own working hours. Go to the basement below the underground mine to find Harold for more details. Need to have collection and foraging skills. Bring your own light source or have good vision. He picked up the card and returned to the enthusiastic half-body who was answering numerous questions from 3 adventurers. No, I don't know if there's a good place to quickly upgrade. If you knew what this meant for a half-person, you wouldn't say such things in public. Advance cash. Do I look like a dwarf banker? No. Complete the task and get paid. That's a joke, a dwarf wouldn't lend money to someone like you. Or someone like me. Damn it, or anyone. High reward and high risk. Of course. There is a ticket from the Imperial Zoo requesting a dragon egg. Bring some fire-resistant equipment, they will become very hot. How many stupid questions can I answer? Let's say you just finished asking. Go away. Mallow walked up and placed a copper coin on the counter. What is the best way to get to this place? The half-figure was surprised for a moment, and then the coin disappeared. He smiled and said, "Of course, child, you have restored my confidence in human nature. Although I didn't have much confidence in humans at first. My name is Bernard, by the way. You need to go deeper to find old Harry. There are 2 ways to do this. The laboratory office is located above the mine and/or processing plant. You can go there and take the elevator down from the mine. Of course, they will try to charge you and take your money. Alternatively, you can walk under the stairs of that beautiful building. Keep going down. If you get lost, ask a hot-tempered guy for directions. Keep going down until you reach the mine. From there, walk a few hundred feet to the right and find a slope leading to the tunnel below. There should be a sign with the word mushroom written on it. Harry is at the bottom of those caves. Bring lunch, that's the tunnel. It's quite a climb, he said while remembering the direction. This is becoming increasingly interesting, the mine is almost as large as a residential area. The stairs lead to the next floor. There are several doors marked with plaques from different companies. More stairs lead to the second floor. An old dwarf who was patching socks pointed to the stairs below. Rather than being a staircase, it is more like a ladder leading to darkness. Thank you for his night vision. He descended along the ladder and heard a sound coming from below. After passing through a nearly 300-foot ladder, his arms and legs felt sore and he fell into a small room adjacent to a large mine. Several horizontal mines terminate in the middle of a large room several acres in size. The stone pillars support the roof, about 20 feet above people's heads. The 3 dwarves were drinking beer, using a flat noodles as a table. One of them raised his head. You are too thin to work in a mine work. Disappear. There is no need for the weak here, especially those who cannot see the stones they have struck. Mallow ignored these words. I'm looking for Harold Uston and I want a job. It's somewhere in this basement. The 3 dwarves all laughed. Oh my goodness. It's so funny. Harry found another fool. Kid, this is not the basement. This is the top of the mine. If you want to find mushrooms, go along the right passage. At least he was very helpful when pointing out the passage. Maluo immediately realized that this was not a mine passage, but more like a series of caves, sloping downwards. There were ladders here and there to help with the descent. It took him another 2 hours to reach the bottom. Going back may take more time. As he traversed the final section of the cave, he arrived at an open area partially illuminated by fluorescent mushrooms. This large cave is filled with large and low wooden crates, which emit an unpleasant odor. Looking down from the edge of a box, you can see that it is filled with plate-sized green mushrooms. Some of them are still trembling slightly. Stay away from them. They are about to mature, and spores can have a terrible impact on your lungs. Malo walked away 3 steps and turned around to see who was shouting. A short and chubby person is walking towards him. His head and chin were covered with a clump of unrimmed hair. Except for a bulging red nose, his eyes were covered by goggles and he wore a cloth mask on his mouth. He was covered with layers of dirty clothing. I thought the taste of mushroom farms was already bad enough. This person smells even worse. Maybe I went to the wrong place. I hope I went to the wrong place. I'm here to apply for a job. Malo raised the card. Oh, a happy day. What an apprentice. I've lost my last apprentice for a long time. Come with me, young man. Mushrooms in the dark. Dr. Roston has provided you with a task. Harvest 20 pounds of wild black-haired mushrooms. Reward. A better relationship with Rothschild. Legitimate remuneration for labor. A tedious speech on mycology. Accept his generous proposal. Why/n did you accept this task? Chapter 10. Mushroom Collection. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The place where miners refer to it as the basement is actually a huge natural cave and passage area, where Wally, he insisted on being called this name, established a laboratory and a large mushroom plantation. It's damp and dark here, and it smells like shit. For mushrooms, it is an ideal environment, but I understand why Wally encountered difficulties when finding people to do picking work. He doubted whether Wally had really gone to the city. For his physique, this journey will be very difficult. He couldn't catch his breath while walking on flat ground. For some reason, he survived here. Are you sure he doesn't want to know the details? This job is at least relatively straightforward. Go to the nearby tunnel area, find the area with the black thorn hat there, and then fill a bag. At least he now knows what they look like. Huali insisted on giving him a quick tour of the area, including a small side road filled with mushrooms, a main cave with hundreds of different small mushroom farms, and then his laboratory. The laboratory is a chaotic place, with tables filled with flasks, stills, mortars and pestles, strange devices, and books. Too many books. Most of them are thick monuments with faded text on the front or spine, and the paper is yellowed and curled. Dampness does not match with books. Have you ever seen so many books before? A huge book like this was spread out on the table. It turned out to be an encyclopedia of various types of mushrooms, with colored images attached. This allows Wally to show him what he needs to find. When mature, it is about 4 inches tall and has a black top with thorns like chestnut shells. If you cut off the stem and they scream, "You're looking for the wrong one," it's best to run away. Malo obtained a rudimentary map, a picking bag, a small shovel, and a bottle of milky white liquid. If you think you may have been poisoned, it will relieve you a bit. This is a wonderful little mixture I made myself. He also provided a small lantern, but he left it in his backpack. The lichen on the wall emitted enough light for him to easily see the road. Carrying a light source will only make other creatures here notice his arrival. He immediately understood why Huali needed an assistant here. Once he left Wally's area, the tunnel became narrow and winding. Malo stopped when entering and transformed into a more comfortable form of a rat-like creature. Claws and tails make crawling easier. This is like his early days exploring small passages and ventilation ducts in the living quarters. Everything is fresh and interesting. He spent several years exploring all of this. To be honest, he missed that time. I really hate boredom. If he is not doing something or discovering something, boredom is painful for him. This led him to start repairing the mechanical equipment required for Option E to operate. The situation is slowly deteriorating, but the challenge has given him an outlet to release anxiety. If he sits still for too long, anxiety will climb up in his heart. This is a curse instilled in him by the people who created him. But now he has another world to explore. According to Wally, the tunnel he is in should soon lead to a larger area. Disappointingly, he found it almost blocked by a landslide. There is only one small crawl left that he can wriggle through space. He is not the only one who is unlucky. A withered corpse leaned against a stone, with one leg caught in a falling boulder. Wally mentioned that some of his new apprentices had escaped. This person's fate is even more tragic. This body is just fragments of leather clothing and bones. Bited bones. A glimmer of light made him see a metal union emblem falling from a rotten rope around his neck. Take it back to the guild. When he compared himself with it, he noticed some strange things. He joined the guild 9 years ago. This is not a player. Carefully search around. There were 6 copper coins in a rotten leather bag, and he found a small hammer in good condition. This hammer is right where the unfortunate person needs it to save themselves. The hammer head is a bit rusty, but it is still very sturdy. Instead of the dagger with a hole held by the corpse. When he picked it up, the blade broke. This corpse is a reminder to be careful. A rolling stone may forever trap you. Carefully moving along the small passage, finally arrived at a larger cave. This is a natural dome area with a diameter of about 100 jang. It is filled with various mushrooms. The towering and pointed mushrooms have red spots, while the coconut tree-shaped brown mushrooms grow in clusters. Luminous green mushrooms with a diameter exceeding 1 jang grow alone in many places. He saw an area of black thorny mushrooms that Wally wanted, so he started working. Wally doesn't care whether he excavates them or cuts short the upper parts of the ground. Either method will leave a portion that can regrow. Have you decided to dig up these mushrooms? They are easy to dig up, and he quickly mastered the rhythm of digging and throwing them into the bag. As he was nearing completion, he felt a greater resistance than expected as he picked up a black mushroom and noticed its less pointed hat. This mushroom was pulled out of the ground and surprisingly had arms and legs, one of which was crushed by a shovel. Little eyes open, little mouth starts screaming. In surprise, he threw it to the ground and stepped on it with his foot. The scream stopped. Wow, this is really the beginning of a brilliant monster hunter career. Can't you find something smaller to bully, you big bully? You defeated the immature mushroom stem monster. You have gained an experience point. Do you remember Harry's warning about screaming creatures, but it's already too late. A large and glowing mushroom with a green cap was trembling and shaking, and then a larger mushroom man crawled out of the ground. Its body is a long stem, divided into short legs and arms with hard fists. It has a beard on its angry face that resembles a root-shaped beard. The green hat makes it look like it's wearing a huge hat. Do you remember Harry's suggestion for the next step? Run away. He grabbed his backpack and headed back towards the tunnel with the unfortunate passenger. The angry mushroom man caught up. When he arrived at the tunnel, he realized a flaw in his escape plan. The narrow passage will move slowly, exposing his legs to the attack range of the green hat opponent. How powerful is this guy? Have you decided to fight? He drew a dagger and threw it towards the mushroom man. The knife hit the upper part of the hat and went straight in. If this harms this creature, it doesn't notice. While dodging a punch, he rolled to the side and grabbed the machete. This would be even better. He chopped a blade onto one of his shoulders, and to his surprise, the blade went straight over and cut off one arm. The other arm hit his stomach, causing him to bend down. Have you decided to continue scrolling down? Standing up, he grabbed the machete with both hands and swung it horizontally with force. The blade hit the neck where it should be, and he cut off the entire top of the mushroom stem. The battle is over. At least you found something closer to your own size. Congratulations on your victorious battle. You defeated a mature guard mushroom stem. You have gained 10 experience points each in Knife, Dodge, DX, and AGI. These are not that bad. Mallow only took 10 damage, and this creature is actually quite easy to dodge. He decided to clean up the tunnel, open up an escape route for himself, and then go back and try again. When he was cleaning the rocks, he noticed something sparkling on one of them. Upon closer inspection, it appears to be a small piece of ore. He used a stone hammer to break the rocks around the ore until a shiny object the size of a walnut fell off. He threw it into his backpack for later inspection. After careful half an hour, he dug out a larger escape route. This time, he paid more attention to the mushrooms he dug and the placement of the large mushrooms he now knows are guarding. When the bag was full, he ran back and placed it and backpack on the other side of the obstacle, then returned to the mushroom field, holding a machete. Instead of choosing an immature mushroom stem, he chose to throw a stone, hit a mature mushroom, angered it, and then it charged out in anger. Dance around this slow-moving creature and easily avoid its impact. With 3 slashes, he disarmed and killed it, receiving another experience notification. He can do this all day long. And after they are all cleaned up, he can easily collect all the mushrooms Harry needs without being disturbed. An hour later, he had already killed more than 10 of these creatures, only to see one remaining on this side of the cave. He walked up to it and threw a stone at it. There was no response at all. Upon closer inspection, he noticed that the mushroom had a larger and darker green hat. He threw the second stone, which left a dent on the hat, exposing the pale flesh. But this is enough to anger this creature. The hat began to tremble, and something squeezed out of the soil. Squeezed. 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 The creatures that emerge from the ground have a similar shape to others, but they are huge and at least 10 feet tall, with a brown and nodular appearance. A long green beard extends from its face to its short and thick feet. A dark green hat with a diameter exceeding 8 zhang covered its head, which I haven't seen before. Larger mushrooms grow from the top of the big cap. I was throwing stones at one of them before. The creature roared at him. You have angered Kronk, the cave guardian. He swore to retaliate against the piece of meat that disturbed his spore companion. You will compensate for their regeneration by fertilizing them. Perhaps Huali's warning wasn't about those little things. Mallow ran away, and Kronk followed closely behind, taking a 10-foot stride. Before walking to the smaller cave, Kronk stomped on the ground with one of his huge feet. The stone fell into the small cave, blocking the way out. Suddenly suspecting how other landslides occurred,